Hello, everybody. My name is Alex, and you're listening to Godsky podcast. This is episode 6, so we're coming back with new ideas and with some new material. I'm always glad to be around with my phone ready to pick some ideas or to find new proofs of the same ideas I was sharing. And yeah, it's actually really a wild ride recently. I've discovered one of the let's say greatest podcasters I've met. Let's say, not to take it too stretch it too far. It's not about greatness, but I'm really hooked about his podcast. The podcast is just basically on the history, and he's making it live on a live streaming, and people asking him question, but he's sticking his own main materials. He's working by the notebooks. Sometimes he's getting drifted away by some question, drifted away by his own thought, because whenever you're passionate by by the topic itself, it's actually really easy to be the drifted, to basically go off topic and ramble about something that you specifically know, or you had passion for it. So yeah, it's actually amazing to discover stuff like that, and always make me hooked on their ideas. And basically, you know things that just passing through you. That's why I'm really passionate about sound. I'm really passionate about this form of idea, transferring the medium, basically. Of course, everybody today are using Netflix. A lot of fun. I've seen people just sitting at work with their mobile phone, like looking at iPhone. There's some they so hooked, they keeping up to make their be practical at work. So because they, like, say you have mundane work that, I don't know, make give permissions to sort of special permissions to the usernames. And so he's checking the emails, checking his the program, and making the task, and between the tasks he's taking out his phone, maybe even the coworker I see doing that is always hooked on a Netflix. At the point, it's not the only one. It's actually, I've seen couple of them. So it's what's the interesting, they've picked the different side of activity, because basically they don't have that much sound around them, and they trying to keep it quiet. Maybe it's barely you can hear the sound, but what's important and what's going on, what's the plot and what's going on. Or in the subtitles, they're using subtitles, and they're using the visual cues. Where are they going? That's a completely different side of the podcast. Where at podcast, or even audiobooks, you basically gotta be more focused with your ear. It's not about the focus, but you gotta be more present with the sound and the language itself, to really imagine what's going on, where's going on. Many times you can easily get drifted by the usually your day-to-day tasks, and you can forget what was in a topic, what they were been talking about. So it's interesting. Actually, today we can split people, like if we're talking about of medium consuming, it's podcast people who need to use their eyes and their hands, but at the same times the ears are free, and the mind is free to be drifted, so to popping up the podcast or audiobooks. But audiobooks is really tricky, because audiobooks are taking a lot of your focus. If you're not listening to the not listening audiobook for content itself, you're basically missing out. The whole point of the book is to give out the content. Of course, I'm not talking about, let's let's say I try to make this practice. So in previous episode, I think I've shared my story how much I was practicing to draw, and the task is really mundane and takes a lot of at the same time concentration, and at the same time muscle movement. And a couple first weeks of struggle, I put the audiobook about the philosophers and the basic philosophy. And to be honest, I wasn't progressing, not in a drawings side of things, and not in a philosophy side of things. I really like was missing out. All I heard is like a lot of blubbering, and was taking me really into the sleep, this type of format. At the same time, the podcast is actually works pretty well for me. I can make something in a task. I can basically pop out of conversation and come back, because the conversation have this structure of building up the idea. And if you really connected to the host, you don't have to be 100% with him, because you're not arguing with him, you're not having a wild conversation. So doesn't take, you don't need to respond to him. And that's actually pretty interesting annotation. If we are not really into like speaking with somebody, speaking with opponent, or having conversation with a friend, it still takes your mental abilities, takes your mental energy, but at the same time, because we want to respond. If it's gonna be, let's say he's sharing a sad story to you, so you gotta respond properly, accordingly, maybe cheer him up. So it takes your mental energy. But if we're talking about the podcast, it's actually a media that doesn't asking you anything. Just listen and enjoy the ride, let's say like that. So I was really enjoying the ride of the podcast about the history. He's Russian speaking host. And what's interesting, which is really, really fascinating for me, my ability to understand the my ability to understand his language. It's not only based about over the Russian language itself, because the way he sends the information nowadays, it's completely new language. We're talking about some people in their culture doesn't really like recently discovered what does it mean boomer, what does it mean, what's a recent word, boomers, zoomers. For them it's completely different, like alien language for them. So in my luck, I had luck to be inside this culture, growing up with it, not just saying like I'm a 90s kid and be proud of what are you proud of? You people who say they're 90s and they not keeping up with the old trends and the same time with the new ones, they that's just like brag about something that you have no value in it. So let's say I'm not I was never I was hooked on the video games, but I still hooked on the video games. I'm trying to control it more responsible now, which is not the easy task and not fun task. But my personal experiences from the video games gave me not just a language of terms. So today, if for the example, okay, he was talking about the building up the armies, okay, and the word he was using, so he's talking about on Russian, and at some point he said to make, I'm underline it, units. And for the Russian speaking listener, it doesn't even mean something, unit. But if you're played in a strategy video game, you understand what unit means. Unit means it's basically sort of type of soldier or worker or whatever. It's one unit for some task. And for me, it's just easily to understand what he's talking about, and it's just little example of the real example of language he's using. He's infusing the modern English with the modern vocabulary and the gaming terms, and his listeners are keeping up with that. What's fascinating, but 95% people around me will never even understand what he's talking about, not even because of the language barrier, but because of the imagery and the terms he's using. It's some sort of became like academia. You need to be really for example, I've noticed a lot of people online are using the term, they taking the Dark Souls video game, Dark Souls, that I really love and are really passionate about this game. They're using it in a real life examples. They're using it in a like in the middle of the language now. Let's say if they like, for example, if you're not really heard about the series, which I'm surprised, I'll give you a quick rundown. What is Dark Souls? Dark Souls are really punishing game, the game that doesn't holds your hand, because it was like sort of rebel against the modern video games that was giving you the tunnel. It was like it was sort of cultural rebel. I'll give you a better example. So, for example, video games like Call of Duty, okay? It's a modern shooter that pops you that crazy nice graphics, really fascinating graphics. But what it makes, it takes you by the hand. It gives you right directions. You have right goal. It give you direction. Okay, you need to get to that tower and plant the bomb. You need to go to that objective and do some other objective. And even the map itself, it's closed. If you sometimes it was like holding you even go back, just like they're straight forward. You gotta go. And then the amount of games was popping up non-stop. I mean, the amount of games was popping out about it, but the same with that type of mechanics was fascinating, and it was really like it's not even fascinating. It was really obnoxious because people wanted something more unique, and here comes the Dark Souls that gives you absolute freedom. By freedom, I mean you get in an alien world with almost no it was like a simple explanation of basic mechanics, how to navigate your character, and that's it. It's all for your interpretation. Now you need to discover the story and the lore of the game by the way you playing the by the way, I just remember interesting term. Let me hold that thought. So the non-player characters, the NPCs, are the ones who's not really giving you information. They give you more like despair, because they're give you the story that they stuck on the same circumstances like you, and they're not really seeing that far as, and they're not really seeing way out. So they basically give you that feel that they trapped same with you. And it's all about, now it's your turn to discover this world in your ways. And that we're talking about, the game is really punishing the mistakes you get, but at the same time it gives you hope that mistakes you've made will give you next step and reveal you next corner and next tunnel, and more you go in deeper into this game, you discover like, wow, I never ever expected to game give me that level, like so deep experience. And I'm coming back, and yeah, and in real life now, the people using that game as example, as a like philosophical example of terms that not be handled, and being, you know, like to able to witness it, and to witness stand the punishment in life, and you know, it goes really deep. So coming back to the term I said, non-playable, non-player character, NPC. Basically NPC, there are characters that put in the world with same with you, but they're going by the script. They're not human players. They're like algorithms was made inside the game engine. So the term NPC was now is popular among even like political views, or even you know, this term goes to use on people who respond exactly, they respond exactly how the script and the narrative um dictates to them. So for example, if you, the best way to describe, if you say something about a person's religion, he will respond accordingly, and he will be really aggravated by you, and he will be irritated, and you know, defensive, and in always in like in most of the time in aggressive way. So that's the basic algorithm that was built inside his belief system with the belief itself. So I'm not judging beliefs of people, I'm judging their how hold their hold over the how much they holding that belief so deep, and you know, not thinking for themselves, not giving the right moment for the self, and think what to respond and how to respond to that, let's say provoked, and you know, maybe it's time for himself to question that, or you know, I'm not talking about too much rude people. Okay, if the person rude by himself, okay, it's not the conversation anymore. We're talking about the person just being rude to you, so you don't have to respond at all. It's better turn your back to him. But if we're talking about some provocative conversation in any topic, people today, that's why they get called NPC, because they respond accordingly by that dogma. That's the best description I can give. So coming back about the history podcast I'm listening now. I'm talking about 8 hours straight. I'm listening for about history. To be honest, I I'm I'm really fascinated by history, and if it comes up with some hook, you know, the eras and the timelines he gives really hooking me, and I'm discovering more and more. So bear with me, but to be honest, I'm about to start now be more even listening even more, and take some notes, because I've took a lot of notes to myself on podcast I was listening for. Just for the example, I've drive crazy people, close people with the ideas I've took, and let's say Chinese Chinese philosophy in really in the first dynasty, empire from dynasty. Oh my God! I really should take the note what I was listening about. That's why I'm not gonna mention it too much in conversations, because I really don't remember the name of the dynasty that took over the whole China and united it. But just fall away from my head. But the way of philosophy that was building the idea. Just it started from Shine Tsung something philosopher who's gave really radical views and measures how to preserve what is citizen and how he should be considered in the country, and how much he's gonna be like a unit for that country and government. But at the same time, there was a philosopher of Confucius school, and one of the really fascinating speeches he gave from his teachings is about, you know, being a person, to be person that always to be on aware of yourself, and what are you striving for, which means usually our today's ideas is all about the profit, right? If you're making something in your life, it gotta be to just, you gotta profit from it, you gotta have something from it, okay? You gotta have a outcome, like you output. Basically, you put in your input and you gotta get the output. That's how the programming language works, or else it doesn't make sense. So from this, let's say even our phones are basically programmed us to do that. So I'm not talking about we the only make it, people make it, but it's a scene of all of us, but the mobile phones are reinforcing it. So you get in the input, you got to get the output, or else it's broken, right? So he talks about to restrain ourselves to this idea and to be on guard and aware of it whenever we're thinking within this way, because he truly believed in his school, truly believed that this way of thinking and not of profiting from everything you do, it's not the humble man work. It doesn't humble you, it doesn't make you a better person. So whenever you trying to have that idea, what I will get from it, what's my profit from it, you gotta stop it, and you need to think in a way of the way, you know, is this my way? Do I have a heart with this way, or I'm just getting wasted, or I'm just getting dragged in something I'm not really want? So I'm for me, for now, of course, like I've seen around me people have been making the profit from their podcast. I've seen people making the careers from it, and it's really great. I'm really respect their art and the craftsmanship. For people it took 15 years to get there. And of course, if you people asking the question themselves how long it's gonna take me to do something, or like, let's say, to podcast and get the profit. And for me, it's more about the way I've chosen with the path with the heart, and I'm just going for it. It doesn't matter if it may give me a profit or not. For me, my most the greatest profit for me is gonna be to share to more people the ideas, or get response, and like a live response, maybe on my Twitter. You can follow me at Alex Godsky, and send me your ideas, and or maybe you send me to the path of a new path to discover something new. For me, that's the passion, that's the path of the for me, ideas are the real gold. That's how I'm getting that's how I get my my little like a little man who want the profit. Okay, so but yeah, but at the same time, maybe if it's not gonna blow up, we're not gonna have conversation. For me, even talking, it's the way of me thinking and living. And uh at some point, we're gonna build up the conversation. And actually, recently there was a really interesting clash, and talking about the US elections. had almost they usually have before elections they have debates. It's television format debates of the candidates. But here's the spin around. This time there was real option, not the option, was real talk to make it as a podcast. Listen to this. The podcasts are getting the ways, and it almost been the debate between two recent candidates on a Joe Rogan podcast, and it's almost worked out. And people have been really upset that didn't happen, but for me, it's a really silly idea to even like recognize it. But you know, it's amazing that the man took it to that far. He got to this level of a connection to audience, that audience really wanted to hear candidates on his podcast. And you know, I actually could join it for 3 hours, 4 hours, well, how was probably gonna be in 1 hour at max, could be, but it still sounds fun, which is not really podcast format, you know, 1 hour. But it's, you know, sometimes you need less or more time to send more ideas. And yeah, I actually came back to the social networks, and talking about TikTok. This application is dead for me, so I'm uninstalled. Right now I'm working to I came back to Twitter, and I've seen really interesting changes, and I think it's an interesting tool to find information, find connection. Back then I was using it for basically hashtags until it became too much of the bother. But now I'm actually finding out there's a way to connect through Twitter, and actually find English speaking audience, because the mediums in Israel are really limited, because you gotta get, first of all, you gotta get on the television. The only way to be recognized here and find your audience, local audience, is the television. And it's not that, or radio, but it's still so outdated here. We still people believing in the television for sure. And although coming back, it's all coming to the coming back to the new mediums, as like Netflix and the podcasting. I think it's a two type of people who can enjoy different ones. And I actually was excited always. I realized that one thing. uh, what's my problem in Netflix is it's a craft itself. It became sort of a craft of the product. I'm not talking about, of course, everything is product. The most classic music. I'm not gonna say about classic music, or even about. There's a lot of. Okay, we can split two type of art. Okay, one type of art are for survival, that we need to feed ourselves, but we have a passion to this medium, so we gotta make the commercial art. But the art itself can be about passion and be unsellable. I'm talking about some movies or some compositions are really, like they're gonna pass the time, and people will really appreciate it, because somebody put. We're coming back for what's Confucius say. This is the art with the heart. Let's say, like, that's the best example I can give to connect both of these ideas. The art with the heart. I'm not saying commercial art doesn't have the heart. I'm really witnessed the commercial art with the heart and the passion of people. But but the people who's leading it, the directors, are always based on the popular idea and the popular view about the product. It's what restrains the artist itself. So the usually artists are free, are only on his own platform. Artists are free only on they're free on the medium that they pick, and they don't have to give the answers about their creative creative decisions. So just give you the example. Netflix are using the Netflix are today, it's a craft around views. You gotta get your views, because as I understand, I'm not really sure, but your show is gotta be popular. So popularity contest, it comes with the what people like the that type of the camera angles, and that type of the lighting, and this manner of speaking. And there is not much room to to be artistic about, because it's a project, and it's gotta work. Let's say it work to nowadays, it can be it nowadays. If people will build up the algorithms to analyze the frames, and the sound from those, even the music from those series, at some point there is gonna be AI built series, AI built movie, because at this point it's not that hard, it's not that really. Actually, you can go the interesting YouTube channel, and it called "Every Frame is a Picture." Every frame is a picture. You can find one of the last of his creations on YouTube. You can see he took the Marvel music, and between different movies, and you can actually see it's like almost the same melody, almost the same score. There's like difference in not that real difference. And at this point you realize, wow, how much are where's the art in this, where is the uniqueness, because uh, it's uh it's just like a product to pop, and they have deadlines. They have a next year it's gotta get here, and next year it's gotta get here, and not much of the art you can see over there. Of course people like it, that's the point. People, the average consumer like the product, and that's why they're making the product itself. So at my belief, the product, it's there, they're making a product, and at some point AI will just create it for us. You can see that all the series have their hooks, so you gotta watch bench watching, right? We all was doing bench watch. Okay, sometimes we do it. I think that's how our one of the blames is our brain is actually hungry to information, so we consume as more as possible, and the more recognizable the pattern is, more easily for us to come back to it. So we can come back to the same podcaster, same host, that same voice. You can hear couple podcasts in a row, not because of like you're getting hooked, not because it's like how the art creative, but because how our brain responded. That's one of the blames. But the second blame, if the art is made like creating that traps, right, that trap to make you click the next episode, because like it's so intense right now, I gotta see what is going on in the next episode. So that's a tricky part, that's a tricky art they making, it's not that honest art. I expect I expect something new every time I'm discovering art. All right, and coming coming back about our sharing around one of the things that Netflix give to people today is the unification sort of, and the same time divide. let's let's see it in that way. Okay, even though you can spend fair amount of fair amount of binge watching the Netflix series, you're nowadays you're not really can keep up with that. Nowadays, the amount of a product coming up every day on Netflix, it's wild. And people coming up to you and asking, "Hey, have you seen that series?" And you kind of feeling, feel a little bit ashamed, like, actually not. And he is asking you about the other series, and you say, "Oh, I gotta see that one." And at some point, you feeling so guilty that you take obligation to actually watch it, and because you want to keep the connection between each other, and one of the connections is having the shared passion to something, to same ideas. That's how like people connect easily with their same political views or something like that. But and at some point I said myself, no, I'm not playing this game. I'm not really wanna feel ashamed of, over something I'm not guilty of. It's my time. I choose to spend it as I want, and I've chosen not to keep up with every Netflix series it's coming up. And I've been like, and people are really passionate about it. What you can say? They're really invested into the stories, and I'm not gonna blame them. But it's really fun to see it, and that's how we're looking, like building up connection between each other. And what's the idea of this connection? Are we friends at this point or not? And like, and what is it, friend? That's a topic are really interesting, and I actually gonna use one of those hooks. So I have real talk and really, passionate talk about friendship. So I'd like you to come back to me to the next episode, and I'll show you my passion about this topic, and I really escalated it. I'll give you a little bit of a teaser. Uh, I've meditated a lot about understanding what's friends and who they are in our lives. And I'm not giving you the universal answer, but I have pretty tight idea and pretty tight conversation with you, so you can have it from your perspective, and just one of the variables to add up to this idea. So I'm glad we're sharing the same passion. So the passion to the sound, and listening to the voice, and listening to the host who's have something to share. And I'll be waiting you on the next episode where I wanna share about that really fundamental question: who the friends really are. You've been listening to the Godsky podcast. Feel free to subscribe on any platform I'm sharing. I also got godskypodcast.com, and That's a website I built myself from ground zero. It took me a fair amount of effort. Don't judge too much, and I really like the design itself, and I'll be glad to hear your response. Follow me on the Godsky, Alex Godsky Twitter, godskypodcast.com, Godsky Podcast on the YouTube. I'm on the Spotify podcast, Apple Podcast, any other platform, you name it. I've actually used the service that actually sending out all my podcasts to everything. And yeah, I'll be glad to see you and give you my next time that open up that topic about the friends. So see you next time. Bye.